Hola chicas, welcome to Mamacita Uncensored, where motherhood meets real talk. I'm your host Gab, and every week we dive into raw, unfiltered conversations about life, family, and finding yourself in the chaos. Hit follow now so you never miss the laughs, lessons, and stories that keep it real. Let's get started. Hello all, welcome back to episode 2. Today's looking a little bit different. Decided to just show you what motherhood can look like too. I've taken off the makeup. I currently don't have a bra on. And yeah, so just thought I'd give you more of the real raw image of what motherhood can look like on days. But yeah, welcome to episode 2. Today we are going to go into a little bit into motherhood now. I don't know, let's open up a topic, I guess. So one of the topics actually that came up with a friend this morning at brunch was our tits and how much our tits change after having a kid. I wouldn't say I always knew that they were going to change. I mean, look, my mum had 4 of us kids, and from the first to the 4th, they were different. So I was fully aware what was going to happen. So I'm going to talk about pre-baby tits, and then we're going to do after baby tits. So, pre-baby tits. I'm going to say I had a good set of perky tits before baby came along. I was a 12 double D, and they were good. They were amazing. I had them pierced before bubs. I'm still confident in them today, but pre-baby Gab and her tits were confident. That confidence went up as soon as those nipples got pierced. I do not recommend getting your nipples pierced because that fucking shit hurts. I remember getting them pierced, and I literally said to myself and Dennis, I said that if I were to fall pregnant and I needed to remove them, I was never going to get them pierced again. It was just not happening. Yeah, so I said I will never get them done again if these things need to come out, because the pain for me, I rate it like a 12 out of 10. So this is how it happened, right? We were sitting on the couch one day, Gab and Den before kids. We could, just do things randomly, get up and just do things whenever we sort of wanted. We were sitting on the couch one day, and Den turns around one day and goes, I feel like going to get my nipples pierced. And I turned around to him and I said, look, I've always wanted to get them pierced. I was just too much of a little bitch to get them pierced. So I said, fuck it, let's go get them pierced. So we headed down to a local piercing shop that we, had gotten all our piercings done, or majority of our piercings done. And we were lining up, and I instantly wanted to leave when I started lining up. I got so scared. I wanted them done for yonks, years and years. And when it was time to do it, I wanted to bitch out. I was like, this is going to fucking hurt. Anyway, clearly didn't bitch out of it. So we got into the room. I had to pull my boobs out and all. And mark it up, had a look where they were going to sit. Perfect, done. Okay. He comes over with the fucking clamp. That thing hurt so much. It was like a little pea, right? In between your fingers, and you've got to squish this pea as hard as you fucking can. I could have punched the cunt in the face. I I instantly wanted to go home. I really wanted to go home. And I was like, no. One of my lines I used was, Gab, don't be a little bitch. So I went through with the first one. And he goes, oh, are we doing both today? And I'm like, do both. I said, because if you don't do it now, I'm not going to come back and get it done. I had to go first between me and Den, because if I had seen Den go through this much pain, I easily would have turned around and said, nah, I'm not doing it. So I did the first one, and then I said, yep, let's do the second. It fucking hurt. So anyway, piercings got done, and they were boss tits. Like, anyway, I can't even explain how good my tits were. They were good. And then fell pregnant. Obviously, you know, during pregnancy, they just turn into like totally different looking boobs. So yeah, my boobs went from a double D. Remember that? A 12 double D. And they went up to a G towards the end. When that milk started to kick in, I had like porn star looking boobs. They were humongous, like almost the size of Dennis's head. I've got pictures, and I still, when I look back at them, I cannot believe how big my boobs actually got. Can we also talk about the color of our nipples that they go? Like, I know I'm a dark woman. I know that my nipples are going to be a little bit darker than fairer women. They're usually more pink. But when I fell pregnant and my boobs started changing, these things looked like, I don't even know. They were so dark. The size of my nipple could key a car. So we went from 12 double Ds to Gs, and then they stayed a G, but when that milk came in, oh my god, the volume of these boobs, like, my poor back, R.I.P. back. So I did, I'm gonna say 5 to 6 months of breastfeeding. So the first 3 months I just breastfed. I wasn't going to. And that's another thing, actually. So talking about boobs and the topic of boobs, I actually wasn't going to breastfeed. Not that I was anti-breastfeeding, it never interested me to breastfeed. So I was like, no, I'm not going to breastfeed. She's just going to jump straight onto formula. The closer it got to giving birth to Inns, I decided that I'm just going to give it a go. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. Like, so be it. It is what it is. If it doesn't, but it doesn't hurt giving it a go. So I tried, and she latched on pretty quickly. But that was at the hospital. A totally different story when we got home. This girl wanted to just start playing ping pong with these nipples and just didn't want to latch. I didn't want to breastfeed, but I ended up breastfeeding. And we know that, like, obviously breastfeeding, they've got to, suck the milk out. So, all these different things that are happening to these babies, it's going to change the look of them, Began breastfeeding first 3 months. And then after the 3 months, I was making so much milk because, like, if I had left the milk in these tits, they would have exploded. Like, I would have ended up getting, like, an infection if I just left them. I needed to do more of, like, expressing. I ended up changing it. And obviously to give Den, a little bit of, like, him and Indy time too, for them to bond, I decided let's express. So I was on, like, over time, I was breastfeeding, I was expressing, it was chaotic. It was chaotic. It was super demanding. Started doing that, and then I think we hit, because we chose to send Indy to school a little bit earlier, I needed to go back to work a little bit earlier. I ended up just expressing to the 5th and the 6th month, and then breastfeeding, when she got home. Then it got to a point where I needed to stop. So my milk ended up slowly starting to slow down anyway. So I knew that my body was like, yep, it's time to cut the breast milk out and start the formula. Once that started happening, my boobs obviously started to go back to their normal size. When the milk started drying out, all of that, we'll get more into my experience of it all. But the boobs themselves ended up going back to normal sizing, but yeah, just didn't look the same, Love and appreciate my boobs for what they've been through, and what they'll continue to go through when we decide to have another one as well. But they got more of a curve now. They're a bit more, they hang a little bit lower. They're not as perky, but I mean, they served us good. They did. They served us well. So yeah, they just, like I said, they clearly don't look exactly the same. Nipples are a bit different. Sizing's a little bit, how's it going? Gone up in band. I'm a 14 now from a 12. So 14 double D. Yeah, they're boobs. And they're there. And, they did a good job for Indy. They did. So I want to give them props for that. Look, I am not the type to shy away to show a little boob on a night out, or a bit of cleavage with a top. Now that they're a little bit different either. I have a couple of stretch marks here and there. I mean, going from a 12 double D to a G, that's a big jump. I'm gonna, you have to expect a little bit of stretch marks there. That's insane. I've heard women go from I'd say my size boobs pre-baby, pre-pregnancy, went huge, and then actually lost boob when they decided to stop breastfeeding. So, it's so different for everybody. So, so different. Look, it could have been worse. When I fell pregnant, I was very consistent with, moisturizing my skin, being on top of, all the moisturizers and stuff like that, especially on my tummy as well. So I guess that helped a lot with the stretch marks. But yeah, that's for boobs. Boobs are great. So, on the topic of boobs, milk ducts. That traumatizes me. Milk duct blockage. What the actual fuck? I think I had 2 milk duct blockages, and they were horrific. That wasn't even fun. The thought of having my man suck my nipple, it excites me, but not for a milk duct blockage. I don't even wish that upon to someone I don't like, because it is so sore. It hurts. It's just not fun. I had 2. One time, the first time, I was a first time mom, first time experiencing all these things. So I had seen on TikTok, I had seen other places that you get your partner to suck on your tit to pull it out. You bet your ass Den- Dennis had his beautiful lips on my nipples, sucking for the life of him to release some sort of like milk that's blocked up in there to give me a sign of relief, because I was not a happy gal. I was in a lot of pain. He got it out, thank goodness. But that wasn't fun. No. I had like lumps up here, I had lumps down here, I had lumps just going on everywhere, and it would always like happen to one of my boobs too. Like, I was doing the same thing for each of these gals, and one would always suffer more. I'm just assuming that it made more milk, just that little bit more. But she suffered. My poor girl, she suffered. That was the first time. So the second time, it was like a little bit like further into the whole breastfeeding journey. And I remember I had seen like a few mums on TikTok, and they had mentioned to just get like a cup of like, not warm water, because that was going to do fuck all, but it had to be like semi-hot to boiling water, and you let it cool down just a tad, and obviously up until you can handle it, then you try it. But what happened was, so you had the cup of water, and it had water in it, and so what you did was you like popped it onto your boob, and what would happen was like it would sort of, I guess maybe like the heat of the water, or maybe I don't know, the pressure, I'm not too sure what happened, but the second that you pop it on your boob, the milk actually starts releasing and unblocks the milk duct. And when that worked for me, that was just such a smoother transition than pretty much feeling like a fucking cow and then just sucking them so that I could just be out of pain. Anybody that's got a blocked milk duct, I highly recommend just a small cup of water, semi-hot water, not to burn yourself, but enough to like pull the milk duct out. Pop it on the nip, and it should start releasing. If not, I know that just like massaging around your boob can help too. So look, try anything to just get a sense of relief. Don't recommend at all. So if you are breastfeeding, if you are expressing, try not to sleep a full night. I remember waking up maybe twice during the night just to get some sort of relief on the boobs. I did it one night and I just pushed through. I was so sleep deprived and I needed some sleep. We'll get into that topic too. But I needed some sleep, and I thought, fuck it, I'm just going to sleep throughout the night. I'll sort it out in the morning. Worst thing I ever done. I had this boob that was like this, and then I had this boob that was like up here. Nobody could touch these things, not even myself, and I needed to like express ASAP. I remember purchasing like a few like the milk suction like machines. There was one that I had purchased. Let's see if I can have a look. And this is not sponsored or anything, but I had seen them come around on Instagram a few times. Yeah. So I had the Mum Cozy hands-free breast pump M9. They were pretty good. It was just easy. It was just, you were still able to do everything that you needed to do without having to sit there and like pump. So I pretty much lived in like breastfeeding bras, so the ones that you could just sort of clip on, clip off. And a little embarrassing moment, I've still got a few because they are the most comfortable bras ever. So I would just clip it off and stick it in there, and then obviously have a shirt on top, and I could just walk around either doing the laundry or washing the dishes or hang out with Indy. And yeah, so that made it a little bit more simple up until it just became really demanding for me. I like being able to do things. I like being able to get up and go out. I like being able. So for me, it just became too demanding. And it was pretty much just not doing anything for my mental health. So I wanted to be smart about it. Being a first time mom, I didn't really want to end up being in a hole, so I decided to stop. And clearly, your body knows what's happening too. So when my body could sort of feel, I guess, that it was becoming too demanding, I was stressing out about it, and whatever else I was feeling, my body started slowing down the production of the milk. And then honestly, I didn't have to go through the whole cabbage leaf phase. I didn't have to sort of just wean her off it. It honestly just stops on its own. So thank goodness that happened to me, because I have heard some horrendous stories from mums about how they've had to stop breastfeeding, and I was scared. I was super, super fucking scared to stop breastfeeding for that, because anything else, I probably would have stopped a little bit, closer. But clearly, Indy was just thriving off the milk. I was making more than enough. Yeah, so that's why I pushed on. And yeah, so I guess as a first time mum, I did struggle realizing that it wasn't doing so much for my mental health, and I was just sort of like thinking about the benefits it had for Indy. It was not obvious. It was not up until Dennis actually pulled me aside and was like, Gab, you need to get back into proper training. You need to get back into working. I've always worked. I've always been so productive. So to have to slow down because of the breastfeeding, because of, the first few months, it was hard. It was super, super hard. The emotions that run through a new mum, and to be fair, just a mum in general, yeah, it was nuts. It was nuts. So having Den being so supportive of, me, and supportive of, being able to feed Indy when, I clearly couldn't at times, it helped. It definitely helped. But there was a lot of hard times. I was so hard on breastfeeding that at one point I was like, no, formula's not going to work. Like, no formula, no. Not until, yeah, I kind of hit rock bottom, and I was like, I can't do this anymore. I can't. I cannot. I want like my normal boobs back. I don't want to have to wear like my nipple pads. These things were drenching like within a few hours. Like my drop off, my leak, whatever you wanted to call it, it was always on. Like I was, no matter like Indy crying, no matter Indy being hungry, these girls were always having let off, let drop off, whatever you want to call it, always. So it was exhausting. It was super exhausting. And yeah, like I said, it wasn't until like I got into a really, I'm not gonna say big hole, but like it was deep enough for me to go, okay, enough's enough, like formula. We decided that we were going to put her on carry care, and I was a little bit nervous just because I had heard so many stories of, mums going back and forth on different formulas, and one that didn't, clog the baby up, or one that didn't, give them reflux and all that. So I was super nervous, super, super nervous. I guess it's not that I wanted it easy. I just, being a first time mum is like, it's already a lot. So having all these other little things you have to take into consideration is sometimes quite, overstimulating. So when you decided, all right, we're going to jump onto Carry Care, and holy shit, let me tell you, she took it well. She took it well. She was happy. She was so happy on the formula. And I think as a mum, seeing her take the formula so well, Dan being able to bond with her, me able to bond with her, and not having to feel so drained, so feeling like you're like pretty much stuck and you're just like this feeding machine 24/7. My mental health was like back on track in like a few weeks. And yeah, so I definitely recommend not having to like put so much pressure on you. I know like at first, being a first time mom, I know that I have heard after a few babies, it gets easier, but that first time mom feel, it hits, and it's like you feel like it needs to work, and like you hear breast is best, and it does have benefits, don't get me wrong, but you know what? As I went through time, you know what? Fed is best. Your kid being fed is best. And if they're happy, like, that makes you happy. And it made me happy. Seeing Indy fulfilled with the amount that she was getting, it took all that pressure off me. But look, like, everybody's different. If you're against breastfeeding, that's fine. If, you want to breastfeed, babe, go for it. If you want to feed your baby formula, cool. The shop stocks so many, so go ahead and choose one. Everybody's different. Everyone has their own journey. We should all be so supportive of one another and, uplift one another. If, one's having an off day, like, that's okay. Motherhood is not just a, I guess, straight line. It really isn't. And, some may go, you've only got one. She's only 3. You haven't even got to like the hardest part. I'm a mum, and I've done the giving birth to a child. I have done the breastfeeding. I've done, the switch of my mental health. My body has changed. So to be fair, I'm just like you. We're all the same. We are all on the same page. We're all learning. We're all trying to help one another. We're all, if something has worked for you, like, don't be shy to share it. Like, it might work for somebody else. And I guess that's why I'm here too. There's things that, for me, that it worked, and it could potentially work for one of yous. And if not, that's fine. That's fine. But know that I'm here. And know that I do care, and know that you're not alone, because sometimes motherhood can feel very, very lonely, but you're not alone. So, yeah. Thanks for tuning in to Mamacita Uncensored. I'm Gab, and I'd love for you to follow, share this episode, and leave a review to help more mums find our community. Until next time, keep it real and keep it uncensored.